Good morning, Algebra 2. This will be your last video. It is April 27th. That is Monday. This is video number 6. This will go with Q4 quiz 7. So our last topic is just going to be a continuation of what we did last week, and that's verifying trig identities. And we'll wrap up the Algebra 2 class with that. There will be another quiz next week. It'll be a review quiz. And after that, I'm going to open up all the quizzes and let you finish the ones you didn't do, or you can try to get a better grade on the ones you didn't get the grade that you wanted on. So I'm going to give you 3 more examples using trig identities, and here they are. The first one is kind of one of the common ones, and I'm not going to put the thetas or the x's in for the angles. So this would actually say tan theta, but I'm not going to put the theta there. And it would have a cosine theta next to it, but I'm not putting the theta. And then we're supposed to make that equal sine. So now, when they look like this, it doesn't look like the identities on the page that you have. I'm going to change it to sines and cosines. This is already cosine, so I'm not going to touch this. The tangent, I'm going to change, and we've done this a lot of times now, to sine over cosine. And that cosine right there, I'm going to put a 1 underneath it so I can keep everything straight. This happens a lot. I can see that the cosine on top and the cosine on bottom are going to cancel each other out. All you're going to be left with is a sine over a 1. And remember, the whole objective of these problems is to verify that one side of the equal side sine equals the other side of the equal sign, and you can see it does with a little bit of trigonometry. So there's example 1. Here's another one. Second example is going to have fraction in it, but we're going to take the same approach. So we're going to have cosecant divided by secant, cosecant over secant, and then we're supposed to make that equal to cotangent. So again, our objective is to make this side look like that side. So again, there's no identities that match this. So I'm going to change it to sines and cosines. That's one of our strategies that we use a lot, but not always. So cosecant goes with sine. So I'm going to change the cosecant to a 1 over sine. The secant goes with cosine. So I'm going to make that 1 over cosine. So look at what happened. This cosecant became 1 over sine. The secant became 1 over cosine. Kind of ugly looking, so instead of dividing by 1 over cosine, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to change this to 1 over sine. That's the top. Instead of divide, I'm going to multiply times cosine over 1. I'm going to flip that over. Cosine over 1. And now you can see what's going to happen. Nothing's going to cancel this time, but I have a cosine on top of a sine, so I'm going to multiply the top together, I'm going to multiply the bottom together, and that's going to equal a cosine from 1 times cosine, and then sine times 1 is sine. And now you can see it. Cosine divided by sine is cotangent, and I did it. My goal was to make this side look like that side, and they do. Cosine over sine became cotangent. I'm going to give you your third and final example. And remember, this is your last video. I hope you can use the examples to help you get the last quiz done. Well, the second to last quiz done. Okay, last example looks like this. We start off with the fraction again. We have sine squared on top. And on the bottom we have 1 minus sine squared. We're supposed to make that look like tangent squared. So this time I see identities. When I see squares, I always think the Pythagorean identities, which are the most common identities and the one that we use the most. This 1 minus sine squared, if you remember, from cosine squared plus sine squared equals 1, you can make 1 minus sine squared into cosine squared. I'm going to put the step on the bottom. We have a basic identity, sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. If I subtract the sine squared to the other side, I get cosine squared equals 1 minus sine squared. This is what I did. I took 1 minus sine squared, and I know that that is the same as cosine squared. From the Pythagorean identity, sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. Now I can rewrite this. This is sine over cosine, so I know it's tangent, and because they're squares, it's tangent squared. And I made this side look like this side, and I am finished. That's your third and final example. I will be available this week when this video goes out, either by remind or email. You can contact me either way. Remember, you can always send me a screenshot of a problem you're working on, and I will solve it and I'll send it back to you. Thank you very much.